Across the US, there are towns that still look and feel exactly like the late 1950s and 60s, as if the modern world just missed the turnoff. From retro barbershops to neon motels and untouched main streets, these communities didn't freeze by accident. Their stories are stranger. Let's start with the least time-warped and end with the most surreal. 10. Mount Airy, North Carolina. The real-life Mayberry that never moved on. Mount Airy is the kind of place that makes you double-take like, wait, am I inside a 1960s sitcom right now? Because technically, yes. This is the hometown that inspired Mayberry from The Andy Griffith Show, and Mount Airy didn't just accept the comparison, they fully embraced it. We're talking replica sheriff squad cars cruising the streets, a real barbershop that still looks like it charges 50 cents, storefronts with hand-painted signs that haven't been redesigned since black and white TV was a thing. The town didn't preserve this look because they were stuck, they preserved it because nostalgia tourism literally pays their bills. Andy Griffith grew up here, and local leaders realized one brutal truth: tourism dollars greater than modernization. So instead of tearing down old brick facades and widening streets, they protected them. Instead of building sleek signage, they kept the narrow 1960s style shop fronts. Instead of changing, they doubled down. There's even a Mayberry tour where you ride around in an old squad car and families come in 3 generations deep because they discover the show through reruns. Netflix. 9. Granville, Tennessee. The scripted 1960s small town that feels too perfect. Granville is so perfectly preserved, it honestly feels fake. Like the entire place was built for a Hallmark movie and everyone just forgot to leave. Main Street festivals? Check. Rocking chairs on porches? Double check. Retro signage that looks like an intern spent weeks aging it for historical accuracy? Absolutely. Granville didn't choose to stay small. It sort of got stranded. After the mid-century, the town lost most of its commercial base. Businesses closed, people moved away, and the economic pressure to modernize just vanished. And ironically, that saved the look of the town. When leaders realized they couldn't compete with bigger cities, they pivoted. If they couldn't modernize, they'd romanticize. They built heritage tourism from scratch. Classic car shows, themed weekends, period-correct storefronts, and locals maintaining interiors like they're the custodians of an American time capsule. Granville isn't just old, it's curated. A living museum where the 1960s never rolled into 1970. 8. Jerome, Arizona. The artist colony that saved a ghost town. Jerome used to be a booming copper town. Then the mines closed in the 1950s and the entire place nearly became a ghost town. Houses crumbled, buildings leaned downhill, and the main street looked abandoned. But then the artists came. In the 1960s and 70s, a wave of painters, musicians, and free spirits moved in, drawn by cheap rent, beautiful ruin, and a total lack of rules. Perfect combo. They didn't tear the old buildings down, they renovated them just enough to survive. So the town kept its early 20th century bones while absorbing mid-century counterculture vibes. 1960s murals on 1910 brick walls, hippie studios and old mining offices, steep streets where nothing looks remodeled, just repurposed. Jerome became a ghost town turned arts colony, and today you can still walk past 1960s era studios and saloons preserved exactly because no one had money to replace them. 7. Bisbee, Arizona. No big box stores, no strip malls, just steep streets, retro neon, century-old hotels, and cafes with decades of personality baked into the walls. Bisbee followed Jerome's path. Artists, retirees, and counterculture folks moved in, preserving the quirky vibe. The Copper Queen Hotel, a gorgeous century-old landmark, became the beating heart of the local economy, anchoring heritage tourism and keeping everything around it historically intact. Because of the geography, developers couldn't sprawl outward. Because of tourism, they didn't want to build upward, so Bisbee stayed visually locked where mid-century America left. Visitors describe it as a 1960s Western with espresso and art gallery. Honestly, that's accurate. Now let's shift to a beach town that looks like a vintage postcard someone forgot to update. 6. Saugatuck, Michigan. The 1960s beach town that refused to grow up. Saugatuck is a Great Lakes resort town with major grandma's old vacation photos energy. And I mean that in the best way. Low-rise motels still have neon signs straight out of 1963. Waterfront storefronts look like they were built for ice cream, postcards, and people wearing matching family t-shirts. And the whole place gives off mellow, artsy beach town vibes. Here's the cool part. Unlike many resort towns that modernized with high-rise condos and mass tourism, Saugatuck kept the 1960s beach town aesthetic because that's when its identity solidified. Mid-century traveler, artists, galleries, festivals, a booming creative scene. It grew slowly and deliberately, favoring small, quirky, independent businesses. Drone shots show a skyline that basically hasn't changed in half a century. It's low, colorful, slow-paced, and very camera-friendly. But if Saugatuck looks lightly vintage, our next destination looks like a 1960s road trip frozen place, literally overnight. 5. Seligman, Arizona. The Route 66 Time Warp. If you've ever wanted to walk inside a 1960s road trip movie, Seligman is the place. Classic cars permanently parked outside diners, neon signs weathered by desert sun, motels that still advertise color TV, like that's cutting-edge tech. This town didn't preserve its look for fun. It preserved it because it had no choice. When the interstate bypassed Seligman, overnight traffic disappeared. With no money coming in, nobody modernized anything. Owners just patched, repaired, and held on to what they already had. Then, Route 66 nostalgia tourism exploded. Suddenly, old was valuable. Tourists came for the time warp aesthetic. Businesses leaned into it. Some even parked classic cars outside specifically for Instagram bait, knowing that the visuals themselves are their #1 marketing tool. Seligman is mid-century Americana distilled into one surreal Main Street. But while Seligman looks stuck in a single decade, our next pick looks older, yet still feels exactly like the 1950s to 60s because of a strange twist in history. 4. Galena, Illinois. The town that accidentally skipped urban renewal. Galena's Main Street feels like stepping into a sepia postcard. It's dominated by beautiful 19th century brick buildings, but the way those buildings were used in the 1950s and 60s stuck around. Why? Because Galena basically skipped the national trend that transformed small towns after World War II, urban renewal. Across America, cities bulldozed historic downtowns to build malls, wide roads, and parking lots. Galena said, "No thanks," not because they were visionaries, but because tourism started growing at the perfect moment. Residents realized their historic charm was profitable, so they preserved everything. Facades, shop fronts, narrow sidewalks, and period-appropriate signage. Today, photographers and filmmakers love Galena because it can pass for almost any old America era without makeup. The town looks like it held its breath for 60 years and never exhaled. But from historic brick towns, let's go somewhere completely different. A suburban neighborhood that looks like a mid-century architecture magazine. 3. The Eichler Tracts of Palo Alto, California. Mid-century modern, frozen in place. Imagine walking into a 1960s dream of the future. Flat roofs, huge glass windows, clean geometric lines, carports that look like they were designed for a spaceship instead of a Ford. These are Eichler homes, part of a mid-century suburban experiment that still survives in neighborhoods like Green Meadow and Green Gables in Palo Alto. And they look exactly like the original brochures because the neighborhoods were added to the National Register of Historic Places. Strict rules discourage teardowns or remodels, and the community actively preserves the vibe. The result? Entire streets that feel like retro film sets for a 1965 family sitcom. Statistics time. Green Meadow alone has 243 single-story Eichler homes, all built in the mid-1950s and maintained as a living, breathing museum of suburban modernism. Walking here feels like you're about to see a kid run out the front door with a metal lunchbox. But Eichler neighborhoods are preserved by design. Our next example, preserved by bureaucracy. Thousands of towns locked in time because of strict historic district laws. 2. Historic district towns with high, frozen housing stock. This one isn't a single town. It's a whole category of American places that feel stuck in the mid-20th century because of policy. Towns like Lewistown, Montana, or Astoria, Oregon have some of the highest ratios of historic buildings per housing unit in the country. That means entire neighborhoods are legally protected from major changes. You can't tear down, you can't build up, you can't radically alter a facade or widen a street. So visually, everything moves slowly, very slow. Key stats. The US has 2,300 plus local historic districts today, compared to around 100 in 1966. In some cities, there's one historic property for every 80 to 150 homes. That means a huge portion of America looks like it hasn't changed since the era of rotary phones, simply because the rules prevent drastic changes. These towns aren't frozen by nostalgia or collapse. They're frozen by design. And if you want to see the ultimate version of this, the final boss of America's time warp preservation, there's one place where the laws are so strict and the branding so strong that entire districts look like a movie set. 1. Savannah, Georgia. The policy-engineered time capsule. Savannah's historic landmark district isn't just old, it's enormous. It's the biggest national historic landmark district in the entire United States. And here's the wild part. Over 40% of the 2,500 plus buildings in the district are officially recognized as architecturally or historically significant. That level of protection means height limits, strict design review boards, carefully enforced facade standards, almost zero tolerance for modern-looking replacements. Savannah didn't accidentally freeze in time. It engineered it. Tourism exploded because visitors loved the atmospheric, old-world vibe, the mossy oaks, the brick squares, the narrow lanes, the gas lamps. So the city doubled down on preservation, not for history, but for revenue. Today, Savannah feels like a living time capsule stretching across blocks and blocks. It's the ultimate example of how deliberate, codified, well-funded preservation can anchor a place visually in the past, even while the world around it keeps sprinting into the future. America isn't just changing, it's also quietly not changing in 1,000 little pockets scattered across the map. Some towns froze because money ran out, some froze because artists saved them, and others froze because nostalgia pays better than modernization. Wherever you go, the past is closer than you think. I'll keep finding the world's hidden corners. You just have to click subscribe to come along.